Hi. Those of you that have been following the Veterans Law blog for a while know that I hate VA Form 21-4138. This particular form in the VA inventory is so useless that I have yet to come up with a viable use for this form. Plus, I really truly believe that it slows down your VA claim. So, want to speed up your VA claim? Here's what I say. Don't use VA Form 21-4138. My name is Chris Addig with the Veterans Law blog. Though I'm an accredited VA attorney and I've been working with veterans battling the VA for 8 years, this video is not legal advice. This video, like all the content on the Veterans Law blog, is meant to be educational only, to teach you what I have learned these last 8 years so that you can take back the power in your VA claim or appeal. So pop on over to the Veterans Law blog. Thousands of blog posts on VA claims and appeals topics, close to a dozen downloadable ebooks, and a couple dozen training videos on navigating the VA claims process. So stop over to veteranslawblog.org today. But let's get into the meat of today's video blog topic, the VA Form 21-4138. This form, the VA Form 21-4138, is the most overused and useless VA form. What's more is that there is a better form that you can use that will not only improve your chances of winning your VA claim or appeal, but it will also speed up your claim or appeal. And I'll get into that in just a minute. First, let's talk a little bit more about this VA form, the 21-4138. I hate it with a passion, almost as much as I hate the Boston Red Sox. Sorry, Boston vets, I'm a Yankee fan. Veterans tell me that they use this form all the time, though. I see them using it time after time after time, C-file after C-file. I've reviewed thousands of veterans claims files, and I see VA Form 21-4138 everywhere. So you might ask, why does an attorney hate a form that veterans use all the time in their VA claims and appeals? Well, it's simple, and here's the reason. The VA Form 21-4138 is not only one of the least helpful forms in the entire VA claims form library, but it also has some real power to create real problems in a veteran's claim or appeal for disability benefits. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about that form. I'm going to tell you some of the reasons that I no longer use VA Form 21-4138, and most important, I'm going to give you a much more powerful tool that you can use instead. So let's dive into it. What is VA Form 21-4138? This form is titled the Statement in Support of Claim, and at its most basic level, it's the VA form for a blank sheet of paper. Here's a copy of a VA Form 21-4138 coming up on your screen right now so that you can remember what it looks like. In all my years of representing veterans, I've reviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of VA claims files. And in those reviews, I have seen veterans use VA Form 21-4138 in a number of ways. I've seen you guys use it to request an update on your claim status. I've seen you use it to submit stories and information that the veteran might think supports one of the 4 pillars of a VA claim: eligibility, service connection, impairment ratings, and effective dates. I've seen veterans use this to submit gripes and complaints about the VA claims process. I've seen you all use it to provide details of snoring in service in a sleep apnea claim. I've seen you use it to disagree with a statement in a VA ratings decision, or to file a response to a statement of the case. I've seen you use it to update the VA on a change in dependency status, and I've seen veterans use it to add lay evidence, buddy statements, or other evidence in support of their VA claim or appeal. Well, you might ask, what's the problem with all that? All that is the kind of thing that you're going to want in your VA claim or appeal somewhere. And if this is just a blank piece of paper, why shouldn't veterans be able to use it however they want? Let me tell you the dangers of using the VA Form 21-4138 for every and any purpose you can think of. Or, better yet, here are 3 reasons not to use VA Form 21-4138. Reason number 1, you can't use a hammer to tighten a screw. Well, I suppose you can, but it's going to be a little bit messy. Same thing with the VA. It's a government bureaucracy, and every process and every action has its own form. So using the right form for the right job is one way to get your VA claim or appeal out of the hamster wheel a little bit faster. Do you want to add a dependent onto your claim? Use VA Form 21-4170 or VA Form 21-686 Charlie. Want to use a document to file a notice of disagreement? Use VA Form 21-0598. Actually, as of today's recording, it's mandatory to use that form for a notice of disagreement. You want to seek reconsideration of a VA ratings decision? Trick question. There's no such thing as a reconsideration at this stage, and VSOs that tell veterans to submit a request for reconsideration using a VA Form 21-4138 are teaching veterans to flush money down the toilet. And for God's sake, don't use the VA Form 21-4138 to request updates in VA claim status. You should do this using a letter, including your social and your VA claim number, submitted via fax or certified mail with return receipt requested to the VA's Evidence Intake Center. Reason number 2, why you should not use VA Form 21-4138. This is probably the most important one. The VA tends to ignore this form altogether. It's just human nature. Have you ever noticed a crack in the brick on the side of your house and think, when did that happen? Or how about the plumber who comes over to your house to find out why your water bill is skyrocketing this month, and all of a sudden you find that that tiny little leak that's in your outside faucet has formed a lake under your home's foundation? Or like me, have you woken up one morning to find gray hair in your beard? I promise you, these things did not happen overnight. The more you see something, though, the less you notice it. Just like the gray hair in my beard, all of a sudden it just showed up one morning, but I promise you, I've noticed it in the past, I just haven't paid that much attention because it's been happening over time. Same thing applies to VA Form 21-4138. The more frequently this form appears in a VA claims file, the less it stands out. Let me show you how you can tell if the VA is overlooking your VA Form 21-4138 in your claims or appeals. Go through your C file and make a list of every single time that you've submitted VA Form 21-4138. Make a list. Put them in date order with the general use of that form, what you used it for, and the date you sent it into the VA. Now, go back through your C file and look at your most recent VA ratings decision or a statement of the case if you've gone to the board on appeal. And I want you to look for the section that lists evidence. You can find this section if you go through my walkthrough form videos, which are the links to those are coming up on this page right now, or up on the video screen right now, so that you can click through and see how to read these different forms. But when you find them, go to the evidence listing section. Compare the list of VA Form 21-4138s that you prepared to the list that appears in the VA's evidence listing on your ratings decision or statement of the case. Guarantee that something's missing. In my experience, 90% of the time at least, the VA Form 21-4138 is not listed in the evidence that the rater claims to have reviewed in deciding your claim or appeal. I looked at one case where a veteran had submitted over 125 copies of VA Form 21-4138 in his VA claim over a 25-year appeal period from 1988 to 2013. Guess how many VA Form 21-4138s appeared on the list of evidence in his VA ratings decision? Got your guess ready? Here comes the answer. The brevity of this veteran's evidence listing in his VA ratings decision is absurd in and of itself. The C file was over 10,000 pages long. But what's most disturbing is that there was not a single one of those VA Form 21-4138s listed on his evidence listing. The decision that I'm talking about in this claim was on a claim for TDIU, and the veteran submitted valuable information about unemployability in each and every single one of those 125 plus copies of VA Form 21-4138 to the VA. The VA considered exactly zero of the evidence that was on any of those forms. So even if you don't use VA Form 21-4138 a lot, other veterans are, and the VA is just numb to the form. By using VA Form 21-4138, you risk the likelihood that the VA rater will just gloss over it and miss your most crucial evidence. The number one reason that you should stop using VA Form 21-4138 in your VA claim or appeal, you can find this answer in the instructions on the form. The VA Form 21-4138 instruction section tells you exactly what the VA uses this form to do, and they do not use it to prove your claim. Read the fine print in the respondent burden section. We need this form to obtain evidence in support of your claim for benefits. That's an exact quote right off the form. Isn't that one of the biggest problems that the VBA has, that they don't obtain evidence in support of your claim? So why are you giving them a form that will encourage them to not do anything in your claim? Not convinced yet? Read on. There's a simple phrase that appears in the fine print of VA Form 21-4138. It says, quote, I certify that the statements on this form are true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief, end quote. Now, I once had an opportunity to sit down and visit with a federal judge, and we got on to talking about evidence and stupid, boring things that lawyers talk about. He once told me a story that's kind of stuck with me. He said that if you really want to harm your witness's credibility, use these 8 words, to the best of my knowledge and belief. That sounded unusual to me because we see it littered all over the law. We see this phrase everywhere. So I asked him, as Judge, why is that a problem? Here's the example he gave me. And I want you to tell me which of the following statements do you find more believable, more trustworthy, or more credible? It's the second one that you're going to find more believable, isn't it? Why? Because the first statement sounds wishy-washy. Using best of knowledge doesn't really sound real confidence-inspiring. The second statement, on the other hand, sounds much more convincing because the witness believed so strongly in his statement that he is willing to subject himself to a perjury charge if someone shows he's lied. So the phrase that's on the VA Form 2140, I'm sorry, I get so tongue-tied saying it. The phrase that's on 21-4138, quote, to the best of my knowledge and belief, end quote, has absolutely no legal value whatsoever, and when compared with other evidence, will almost always be afforded less weight by a judge, whether it's at the BVA or at the Veterans Court. So if you use VA Form 21-4138, not only are you using the wrong tool for the wrong job, not only are you using a form that the VA is numb to, but you are also using a form that has absolutely no legal value to it whatsoever. Here's what I want you to consider using instead. Instead of using 21-4138 to submit evidence in your VA claim, I want you to consider using this form. I call it the sworn declaration form, and it's the only form that my law firm uses in our cases anymore. The sworn declaration has some real power in it because of the special language that's on this particular form. It gives real power to your lay evidence. Because of what the form is, and because of what the sworn declaration form says on it, it gives added element of competency and credibility to your VA claims evidence. So do you want to learn more about the sworn declaration in your VA claim or appeal? Go to this page that's coming up on your screen right now. I'm going to show you how competent and credible lay evidence will give your VA claim or appeal wings. And I'm going to show you how to use the sworn declaration instead of VA Form 21-4138. Thanks for joining me on the Veterans Law Blog Video Edition. See you real soon. Good luck taking back the power in your VA claim or appeal.